Brought to you by the TGEM Network.
The podcast you're about to listen to is just about people coming together and sharing experiences, and is in no way an advice show. Enjoy.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our podcast, Real Talk with Strong Minds. This show is all about people coming together and sharing stories and about educating people on a variety of topics surrounding mental health. I'm Amanda Lambert, the founder and CEO of Strong Minds, and today we have William, Strong Minds content manager, and we're going to be talking about how our mental health was affected during the pandemic. Welcome, Will.
Hello. Hi.
I'm really excited about today's episode, eh?
Honestly, me too. This has been, I feel like, a long time coming.
Oh yeah, we've been truly wanting to do an episode together for a little bit, but we just, with the nature of what Will's role is with the company, and I'm going to let him kind of explain that because I really do want, everyone to really know what Will does for the company. And for me, he's like my, what did you say earlier? You're my low paying
The low budget therapist, yeah.
But yeah, so maybe I'll just even let you explain a little bit of what you do at the company.
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, the first thing to mention is the podcast. I edit and produce the podcast. All the equipment that we use for it, I bring it from my place. That's how we get all that. I set up all the stuff beforehand. And then Amanda is the wonderful host who provides me the content to edit down to then publish.
But sometimes Will's humble. I could just imagine the hours that it takes him to do some of the editing process because, when it's all said and done and he does what he does, it sounds so fluid. The episode sounds so amazing, but in the behind the scenes, sometimes it's really not like that.
So I actually have something to tell you that might horrify you.
Tell me.
Almost every single episode of the podcast I have edited, I want to say at either ×2 or ×2.5 speed.
What does that even mean?
So it's just the speed of it, right? So I'll play it back at double the speed or slightly more.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's how they get done so quick.
Jeez, well, you are really talented, so.
I do my best.
So we're gonna talk a little bit about our experience during the pandemic. It's been a little over 2 years that the, COVID kind of hit all of us. And I
almost
don't know,
3 actually.
Has it been going on 3? See, I just kind of suppress some of the memories. But yeah, it's been a while and I just really wanted us to spend a little bit of time and, be real with each other and talk about what our experience was like.
Would you say maybe getting some real talk in with Strong Minds?
Oh,
hey.
I like that. So since Will's our guest, I want him to, share a little bit of his experience and how he really felt during the, the first few weeks to the first few months of the pandemic and maybe some things that he has done to really help himself and what others can really learn from that. And then I'll kind of share a little bit of mine and we can just kind of bounce back and forth.
Yeah. No, cool. Love it. Listen, one of us has to be more chaotic, and that's going to be me.
Well, who knows?
Yeah, so the pandemic, the first few weeks of it was really surreal to me. I don't know how many other people thought the same thing.
No, same. It was no, this isn't real. This is not going to happen. This isn't going to come to Sault Ste. Marie.
Yeah, no, in my head, I'm thinking, no shot. There's no way. It can't, it won't, sure, it'll get bad in bigger places, maybe Toronto, but it's not going to get bad in somewhere as small and almost completely isolated as Sault Ste. Marie. And it did. It got really bad.
Really fast, too.
Yeah.
It got bad fast.
It started to get bad, and then it grew exponentially, as viruses do.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the first few weeks, it was super surreal. I didn't really know what was going on. I was in the middle of, I think it was the first year of my first college program. And and then we were just sent home, and we weren't really given any instruction. Our grades didn't suffer because of this completely unforeseen circumstance, which was nice, but it was so weird trying to adapt to that at first. Like, I
Mhm.
wanted to go out and go do things, and I ended up just going for a walk a lot of the time. But then, like, Netflix started coming out with all their wild documentaries. One of them I can't actually say the title of because it does have an explicit word. Don't mess with cats, we'll say. And then
Oh.
Tiger King as well.
If you know Will, he loves cats, so just know that I think it really hit home for you, eh?
Well, what was interesting was that one was all about the internet FBIing the hell out of this guy. Like, some people on a forum found these horrific videos and then tracked down the person who made them before real law enforcement could.
Oh my. I haven't watched it.
No?
No, I
I
haven't.
recommend it. I highly recommend it. It's
Yeah,
really good.
I haven't watched it yet. But yeah.
What about you? Like, with the first few weeks, what was it like? Because you obviously have a very different situation than me. I was a student, you were running a business.
My experience was just so different, and I don't even know where to start. Like, so I know that I had a hard time the first few weeks, like, because all of a sudden I was so busy working with clients, running programming, and everything just stopped. Like, everything just stopped. On top of being self-employed and running, a company, I was also employed with an agency that, with the nature of what I was doing, I was at the hospital. And if anybody over the age of, I think it was 65, you were autoimmune, or what is it called? I think autoimmune.
Immunocompromised.
Yes.
Yeah, immunocompromised.
Thank you.
You were on the right track, though.
Thank you. See, this is why we work so well together. And if you were pregnant, you were no longer allowed to be in the emergency department. So on top of like not seeing, income coming from the company because everything was really stopped, I also got sent home from a job that was a consistent pay. And so the first couple weeks, I just like remember getting out of bed and just feeling really like, where's my purpose? My purpose is helping others, and it's no longer there. But on top of that, I was pregnant, so I was like experiencing the really early weeks of being pregnant to like the early months. So like my hormones were changing. I was seeing differences in my mental health and my physical health. And so it was just like the beginning of like, I don't even know how to explain it. The beginning of a wild ride with my journey, with my recovery. And it was just a dark place for a few weeks.
Well, what's interesting too is we actually reconnected during the pandemic. I don't know if you recall,
Yes,
but
yes,
it was
I
at
do.
your parents' place. The dog got out.
Yes. I remember that. The pandemic certainly has, its pros and cons, and
I would say mostly cons. I don't know about you. I would say mostly cons.
I just mean like adapting wise. We were able to adapt as human creatures. But yes, we reconnected during the pandemic because I wasn't working. I was home a lot, and my dog got out, and I like was chasing it down the street, and then all of a sudden I saw like this person who appeared to like look like Will, but I was like, no way. And then sure enough it was.
And then you forgot I live like 5 minutes away.
But I was just so happy to see Will because without getting like so into it, we just had like went from seeing each other a lot to like really not seeing each other. And it was like,
it was pretty sudden.
Yeah. So it was a dark few weeks. Like, I will not lie. Like, as even a healthcare provider, like it was hard to help myself. It was hard to use a lot of like skills. It was just a really weird and like dark time. And I was able to get out of that funk, that dark place, but it took a couple of weeks, which who knows if this was years ago, it might have taken me months to get out of it. I believe I've acquired, a lot of skills in my toolbox, but it still was really hard. And, I would really like to hear other people's experiences because I can't be the only one.
Oh, no.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, it was a time.
It was wild. It would be really interesting to have like a group of people in a building and that's it. But also it would be interesting to have a group of people in the building and ask them their experience.
Yeah.
Right? Of all like different age groups too. Because there are people who were going through like elementary school that had their lives completely flipped upside down.
Oh my god.
There was also like high school students. Like stuff at like Cora, like the musical theater. People put their heart and soul into that. I've seen it firsthand. People literally go crazy in there and then love it.
Yeah.
But all of that was taken from them because of the pandemic. And it caused a lot of anxiety for a lot of people.
Oh yeah, like I feel really, I feel bad for those that were like transitioning from like elementary school to high school.
Oh,
and,
the
like,
transitional ones are the worst.
and lost those years.
I feel so bad for those
And
people.
in fact, yeah, like the newest referrals that we've gotten, a lot of the information that we received during like the intake, it's just so sad to hear like these kids were bubbly, happy, and then all of a sudden the pandemic happens and they just see their kids deteriorate like mentally.
It's just so sad.
Yeah, it is. And, with the services, like, speaking with what Will just said about anxiety, I was someone who received weekly therapy. Like I went to a therapist weekly. And then when those services got cut and it went from in person to virtual, that was a huge adjustment. And then my group therapy classes completely got canceled and we didn't have that anymore. And it was just so hard. I felt my anxiety like rising because it was almost like all of my support kind of just vanished in a way.
Mm-hmm. See, I was in a bit of a different scenario, right? Because a lot of the friends and a lot of the support that I had already came from individuals that I knew online.
Yeah.
Because believe it or not, I don't have very many friends in person. A lot of that socialization comes from the people I talk to online.
Yep.
And sometimes the friends I have here happen to live on the opposite side of town. And busing, there and back isn't always a feasible option. So we always go for like stuff like Discord or Skype, like any sort of voice chat online.
To be honest, Sault Ste. Marie Transit could be a whole different podcast episode.
True.
Yeah, but yeah, like I could see how people's anxiety would have increased during, the first few weeks of the pandemic. There was just a lot of like uncertainty.
We are going through some very uncertain times.
But we were just going through some really like difficult times with like the unknown, like people like that don't like, that's a fear, like not knowing something.
Oh, genuine fear of the unknown. Yeah.
It's just like, and then like we were like starting to hear stories about people buying like so many products. And, I remember my mom coming home. She's in her 60s and she came home and she couldn't buy toilet paper. And I was like, what? I was like, what do you mean you couldn't buy toilet paper? And then that's when like I started experiencing more like of that anxiety around the fear. I'm like, what is happening? I remember that like it was yesterday.
No, it was truly wild. The great toilet paper drought, I guess, is the only thing to call it. Shortage, that's the one. The great toilet paper shortage, that was wild.
Yeah.
So I think what had happened was it was like the islands that were having some supply chain issues, and it wasn't anything massive, but then the public heard about it. So they started panic buying. Which, I mean, I can look back on that and say it was kind of funny, but in the moment, that was a horrifying thing, because then like, are people going to panic buy more things?
Exactly. Well, even, like fast forward, but when I had Vexton and I had to feed him like formula,
Mhm.
I remember going to Walmart and there was none.
Oh my God, the baby food shortage.
I was literally like, "Oh, are you, thank gosh I have like, I always tried to have like an extra, like, or like I would have like one left and then go buy some. And thank goodness I had some. But like, I just remember like getting close to like the bottom and not having food to like feed my baby.
Oh, that's a horrifying thought too. Like,
I
that is
mean,
your child.
We would have found a way. We would have figured
Well,
it out.
yeah.
We would have went back to the old school ways. But at the same time, like, it was just that fear of like, what is happening? How long is this going to last? That's what started also like coming to like my thoughts were like, now this was like going into 2 months, 3 months, 4 months.
And then that became a year. And then that became 2 years.
Oh,
Because like the virus itself was discovered in 2019 and then became an issue in 2020. We are going on almost like very close to 3 years.
yeah.
That's wild.
No, that's so wild.
Yeah. It has been that long.
And I mean, like, we're going into the 3rd year and it's not over yet. Like, it is,
No.
but it's not. Like, I mean, emails just came through about no visitors now at the hospital. And it's like,
Yeah, I saw that a few days ago.
so
Well,
it's
more
just
than
kind
that.
of like, okay, like, again, like, I try to use skills and like not allow myself to get to those thoughts again. But it's in the back of my head considering we just went through that.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, no one at the CDC, I think, officially mentioned it was endemic now, which means it would have been more safe. Like, it is still here, and it's still scary, and it's still affecting all of us. We know this for a fact.
And as someone who now is like full-time entrepreneur, like full-time self-employed, like
I can attest to this.
it is
Literally more than full time.
it's scary because if programs close, if we're not able to see client care, like
So before we were so rudely interrupted by Siri, what were you saying? I know what I had said last was that the pandemic is still very much here and is still very much affecting everyone else.
oh yeah, I think you were saying something about the endemic.
Yeah. So the endemic, which is, I mean, you just replace the word, like the 3 letters, pan in pandemic with END,
Yeah.
endemic.
Yeah, I got it. Well, I
it's-
got it.
Yeah, no, I'm just explaining for the listeners.
I'm just kidding.
Basically, it means that things are wrapping up with the pandemic.
Yeah.
We can start converting back to what we think is our normal life now. But we did that a little too soon because, well, the economy reasons, I guess.
I mean, like, I think we were also mentioning about, being full-time entrepreneurs
That was it.
and just the importance of like our, like our role in society. Like, yes, we help people, but we also like rely on our jobs to be able to survive. So like, if you take that, away from us, we also like, I think that's why I had experienced that, like, that loss of connection over the pandemic and how I kind of really just lost like my purpose because my purpose is helping people. So when that was like kind of taken away from me, of course I had a hard time with that, but it was also just really challenging not having that income that I was used to because I had expenses that I had to pay for. And when you're self-employed, you don't qualify for EI. So you have to ensure that you're setting money aside constantly to ensure that if there's times like this, you could provide for yourself financially. So yeah, is that in the back of my head now that I have made those steps to become like a full-time entrepreneur? Yes. But it's also like something that I try not to think so much about because, well, when we start thinking of those types of thoughts, that's how more thoughts or more negative thoughts transpire. And then you're all of a sudden in this negative thought loop and it's hard to kind of reel yourself back in. So
Really ground yourself.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So did you want to share anything else about like your experience with the pandemic?
Well, I experienced something similar with like the loss of connection because I did actually go out and see people in person, but I wasn't able to do that. My family is immunocompromised. Well, my grandparents are old, as grandparents are, uh, but my mother is horribly immunocompromised. So I couldn't really make a lot of risks,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's no longer a case of like if I'm risking something, I'm risking my health. I'm now risking the life of at least three other people.
Yeah.
But and with that, a lot of anxiety came up. Like, well, what's going to happen next? I haven't seen something like this before. Sure, I could look back at a history textbook and see what they did, but times are extremely different now.
Mm-hmm.
Are we going to handle it better? And then people started talking about like World of Warcraft and comparing like an in-game video game pandemic of a debuff to real life. There was a lot of weird things there, and that just raised more people's anxiety because now they're talking about something so outlandish. Are we out of ideas?
Yeah, it was just like a ripple effect, eh?
Yeah, like things just got more and more crazy.
Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people's social media use increased during that.
Yes, absolutely.
And then, that's a whole set of like issues right there. That was like our last episode, no? Like how social media affects our mental health. And it's true, like it even happened for me, I wasn't able to work. So like I tried to really implement healthy behaviors, but it was challenging, right? Like your phone's there, social media.
It's like
Stay connected.
an instant gratification thing. You see the thing, it brings you joy. You move to the next thing, you get more joy.
Yes.
It's just so easy and right there. That's another thing too, is a lot of people got into live streaming, whether it be on Twitch or on YouTube. And with that, they started to go more on social media and putting more of their time into that.
Yes.
Which then sacrifices a lot of time that they would need for literally anything else.
Yeah. I agree. It wasn't good.
It hasn't been great. If I had to rate this apocalypse, it's going to have to be like 2 out of 10. Right? Like nothing cool happened. It was all very lame.
So even though I kind of struggled the first few weeks of the pandemic, something shifted for me only because I found out I was pregnant. And so like I think for me the first year of the pandemic, I struggled, but I also like in a way I don't know how to explain it. Like it was like I didn't struggle as much as I did those first few weeks because even though I was put on restrictions during my pregnancy, like one of the restrictions was that I couldn't work out. So that's like a whole different topic, truly, on how that affected my mental health. But because I was like so restricted with not able to do things, I didn't have such a hard time because everyone was almost impacted by restrictions because of the pandemic.
It's always nice to know that you're not suffering alone.
Well, it's like that FOMO, eh? Like fear of missing out. Like
FOMO, but with suffering.
No, but like, and also just with being pregnant, my partner couldn't come to a lot of medical appointments. So that was like super, super challenging. Like,
look, making appointments is already a scary process. Having to go to them alone is worse.
I understand certain things, on why people had to do the things that we had to do, like the rules and regulations. But when it came to medical appointments for a pregnant woman who was on massive restrictions, like I cannot believe that like my partner couldn't come to some of the appointments. I still don't know the logic. I don't understand the logic behind it. Put a mask on. It was like, that's what we were told. I know it was to decrease exposure, but like something could have happened in those appointments of, me being pregnant? Like, what if something truly like horrible information came my way and I didn't have my partner there? I don't know.
No, that's a good point. I mean, I know why the restrictions were why they were and how they were. I get that. I fully comprehend that. But for the sake of somebody's mental health and mental state, like that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's one of the examples of mental health being a little bit further behind physical health in the times.
Oh my gosh.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Couple
Like,
centuries.
it honestly took over 7 months to finally have group therapy available virtually. Like, it's at that point, we were all just needing support that it.
Well, at that point, people like made their own Zoom calls for that. Or was Zoom even like how?
No,
when did Zoom
it was
come in?
Those group therapy classes were not on Zoom because I think of privacy reasons. So they used a different platform.
Oh no, but what I meant was that because there wasn't any sort of group therapy, people just did their own calls anyway to talk to each other, to have that sort of personal support.
Kind of, but with this type of group therapy that I was talking about, like, you learn like DBT skills, so dialectical behavior therapy.
Yeah, very different thing.
Yeah. So what I was just trying to like say is that it's hard to believe that it took, like so long to have group therapy back when it was, not hard for people to create like support groups through Zoom. At that point, we didn't care if it was on Zoom or, a more secure platform. Like, we just wanted support.
And no, like that's a completely valid and understandable thing to want. Like already you're going through a lot with being in a pandemic, but to have that group therapy, which may have been something that a lot of people relied on, taken away.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
And then not to mention, so when I did have Vexton, we were still in the pandemic and there was no like mom and baby groups. There was like no support groups with new moms. And so it was like, I saw a whole other population struggling, which was, the post like partum depression. Like, it was like us new moms, like we really needed those type of support groups. And for that to not be accessible, like, was super challenging, in my opinion. Anyway, I think I could have really like benefited from going to those type of support groups.
I think a lot of people could have.
Yeah.
I think people really don't take into account just how important mental health really is.
If we don't have our mental health, we don't have nothing.
What was that quote that you love from The Who, not the band, the World Health Organization?
Oh, I wonder if it's what I just said. There's no health without mental health.
It is. We found it.
Yes, there's no health without mental health. Like, don't even get me started. It's just so important. Like, what helped me during the first few weeks of the pandemic was physical activity. It's so like getting outside for walks, doing something physical in, my home environment. It really helped. But then, life threw me a little curveball and I was put on massive restrictions. And one of them being I couldn't work out. So I had to really find new ways to help me get through this pandemic. And let me tell you, looking back, therapy, just having a support system, I created a support system because some of my support system was taken away from me. So I had to almost like create a new one. But being pregnant, like, I mean, it was like, I had good days, I had bad days. I mean, maybe I'm not the right person to ask because like I was legitimately pregnant and it was a hot summer. I remember that. But
I mean, arguably, you are also definitely the right person to ask, right? Because there are other people that were also pregnant during the pandemic.
Keep in mind, right? I couldn't drink.
Right.
Because I was pregnant.
Yep.
Couldn't smoke weed.
Yep.
Because I was pregnant. And I was in my opinion, like still early days in recovery. Like, I was going into like maybe my second year of recovery. And so my body changing and like, being pregnant and the food and just with what my recovery is, it was just like, it was honestly therapy, talk therapy, having a really great support system, meaning friends and some family members really helped. And having my business too, like, even though we went through a pandemic, I was able to really take some time and have some, new visions of the company. And I was able to really explore some ideas of what I wanted to do regarding programming and developing things.
Well, I mean, you also ran Run for Change during the pandemic too.
Oh, yes.
You had 3 whole runs for change during the course of the pandemic. You had
Can you
third,
believe?
fourth, and then fifth was the reintroduction of in person.
Yes. Can you believe that I was advised to just not go through with Run for Change the 3rd year? I remember like not sure really what to do because we were in the pandemic. I didn't know if we would be able to gather in person. And I was just kind of, reaching out, and there were some people that told me, yeah, don't even go through with it. And I just was like, no, like, I can't, like, we have to, find a way. And I didn't really know at the time that virtual, like, 5Ks even existed. Like, I didn't even know that that was a thing. And I honestly am proud to say that, like, we were one of like the first virtual 5Ks to like happen. And people started like catching wind that like it can be a thing. Like, you can have a successful event. And I honestly am proud to say that. Like, I don't think that there was many of those types of running events before in Sault Ste. Marie anyway.
No, there definitely wasn't. Well, there's hardly ever like any notable running event,
True.
any amount of kilometer event. But Strong Minds really like took Run for Change and said, yeah, this is virtual now. Why not? And that really like that set a path for other companies, even like 9-to-5 office jobs. Right now people figured virtual work. It's easy.
Yeah.
And that also gave people like more things to do while the pandemic is still going. They can still make money and not have to worry. They can still fill that time with something that isn't just wasting it.
What are some things that you have done during the pandemic to kind of help overcome
Well,
the madness?
The madness. I haven't done a whole lot. I mean, like I've been going for a lot more walks. Walks are great. Hard to do in winter with how the sidewalks are.
Oh my God, don't get me started.
But just mostly walks. If it's not that, I'm probably going downtown. Like I guess now, rather not more at the beginning. Just trying to get any sort of virtual hangout session with any friends as well. Like the biggest thing was trying to stay social.
Yeah.
As a human, a social creature.
Yeah.
It was very important to me that I had some sort of interaction, as antisocial as I am.
I couldn't like agree with you more. Like those first few weeks, I did do a lot of isolating. But I quickly like realized the importance of really trying to be like connected with people, because we are social creatures, and that's kind of like how we kind of, stay connected. Like,
Yeah.
it's in our nature. So, yeah. Is there anything else that you would like to say about your experience with the pandemic, Will?
There's not a whole lot. I mean, like I know socializing just got harder with the lack of practice, and with a lot of the time I had stewing in some of my own thoughts, a lot of anxiety got worse. But I think more than anything, it's important that people like they don't bottle any of that up. They talk to people. They build that support group. I think it's the most important thing someone can do.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I learned a lot of things through this pandemic. We are very resilient.
True.
We are super resilient creatures. Like, I'm very happy that I, like I said, have gained some skills for my toolbox, because like without those skills, I don't know how resilient I would have been. But I don't know.
I'm proud of us. No, I'll cut in there. I'm proud of us. Like we did something. We survived this far into a pandemic both physically and mentally. That's impressive. Hey, all of you, I'm proud of you.
Yep.
You've survived a pandemic. Look at you go. Round of applause.
There we go. So, to be honest, like, I mean, we would love to hear your story about, the pandemic and how it impacted you. And if this is, something that you really are interested in, maybe we can make like a documentary. Will has just been saying that he wants to do more film. So if this was something that you really enjoyed listening to and you want to be a part of this, maybe this potential new movement that we might create, reach out to us at info@strongminds.co or will@strongminds.co or amanda@strongminds.co. You can email us. Definitely check out our website, Instagram page, Facebook page.
We have not chilled for followers yet, and I don't know why. Hey, if you guys enjoy this podcast, wherever you're listening to it, whether it be Apple Podcasts, Google, Amazon Music, Spotify, make sure to give the podcast a like, a follow, a subscription, whatever it is that wherever you listen to your show does it. It really helps out the show quite a bit.
Yeah, and we would love to hear your comments and feedback. It would be
Absolutely.
nice.
Yeah, please be gentle.
Yeah, be
The
gentle.
pandemic's
please.
been hard on us. Please be gentle.
I just want to say thank you so much to you, Will, for being here today. Like, I know that we've been talking about doing an episode together, and I'm just glad that it finally happened. But I think we did so well that we should do it again.
I absolutely would love to do this again with you. I think it's just a good time.
Just a good vibe.
Just a
good
great time.
So thank you so much for tuning in. We had such a great time with this episode, and we really, truly look forward to our next episode.
Take care.